Welcome, everybody, to Write Better Together. I'm Jon Meyers. Hey, look, everybody, it's Emily Brooks.
Hello, Jon Meyers. And hey, look, everybody, it's Bob Saenz.
Oh, my gosh. What? Bob Saenz, what'd you do with Emily? What happened?
She's in my basement, and
Oh, my gosh.
she's staying there for the next 6 weeks.
As we are recording this, she still hasn't given birth yet, so I hope you're boiling water and there's sheets and everything. I hope you're preparing.
Oh, yeah, we're prepared. My dog is ready to go in a moment's notice.
Perfect. What are we talking about today?
Well, there's quite the list.
Oh, my goodness.
First, we're going to talk about how we got out of our bubble. Then we're going to do a viewer response.
Yes.
Then there's an interview with an amazing guest. Then we're going to do a little Hey Jon Meyers, and you're going to ring a bell. And then we're going to do something I don't want to do, which is the final act.
I appreciate you swimming upstream against your normal, natural inclination to play the game.
Do I have a choice?
No.
I didn't think so.
So how'd you get out of your bubble? Wait, that's what we're going to talk about when we interview that guest you were talking about. The whole thing is going to be about you getting out of your bubble.
It's going to be about getting out of bubbles. That's what today's episode is.
Yeah, so that's perfect for this to be your first time for subbing for Emily.
Hey, Jon Meyers, what did you do to get out of your bubble?
I went to my mailbox. Can you believe that? You're supposed to say, that's not a story.
That's not getting out of your bubble.
And I got this thing from... I have to cover up the address. Look at that. Do you recognize that handy dandy handwriting right there?
That's my wife.
I got
She's
a card.
writing you letters now.
I got a card from your wife. Look at this lovely viewer response. Look at that. Like, this is not just a thank you card, man. This is wonderful. Look how I hope you
It's epic. Well, you have to remember she was in the medical business, so you can't read her handwriting.
Well, I could read it. Thank you very much. And I won't read it on here, but it was very beautiful. And it leads me to a story about when I did get out of my bubble. So just going to the mailbox wasn't a story, but this is because we talked about it already with Emily, where I went to your 50th wedding anniversary / recommitting of your vows. This is the first time I've seen you since then. I've talked to you on the phone since then. Yeah. And Sheila Gunlock, a former guest, was also there. And it was beautiful. Clay, your Pastor Clay Baggett, he was there. It was just so wonderful. But I got a moment, because it was so busy, I got a moment with Margie, and I asked her what her favorite moment or what her favorite adventure with you was, favorite moment. And she said there were so many that she couldn't even pick one. And I'm like, okay, well, pretend you're on the podcast and you have to pick one. And do you know what? So it turned into not an adventure or a moment. It turned into her favorite thing about you. Do you know what it was?
I have no idea. That I make her laugh?
So she did say that. She said he's always funny. He's always pulling pranks. But my favorite thing about him is his beautiful green eyes. And it was, and
you know, when I got my driver's license, and especially when we came to Tennessee, and I wrote down green, the woman said, nobody writes down green. And then I opened my eyes for her, and she went, you have green eyes. And I said, yes, I do.
And I didn't know, so I walked over to you and I looked, and they were beautiful green. And this envelope that she sent is green. It might look blue on the camera, but it's actually green to match your beautiful eyes.
My eyes are green. It's been when people actually come and look at times, they are stunned with the fact that my eyes are green. It's been my lifelong affliction.
Affliction. According to your wife, it's the reason she married you. No.
Well, that's news to me, but
I hear
I love her, so whatever it took.
I hear our guest rumbling in there. Is that Rocket?
That is Rocket. He's rumbling around here somewhere. Oh, he's on the sofa.
Tell everyone who Rocket is, because Stephanie Rocket also has a dog.
Rocket is my companion and muse and dog, and he comes in with me whenever I write and lies around on the floor and yells at me and teaches me lessons and
makes sure you feed him.
He's a very nice young man.
So perhaps one day Emily's Winnie and Stephanie's Maze and your Rocket can all meet one day.
No, he doesn't like dogs.
He's camera shy.
No, he doesn't like dogs.
Does he?
But not at all.
Does
Uh,
he? Does he have beautiful green eyes?
I would assume. I have no idea.
You don't know
You're
what
not.
color your dog's
You know
eyes are?
what? You're never supposed to look a dog in the eyes. You know that, right?
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's an act of aggression.
Yeah, that's true. So you really don't know. Oh my gosh. My Tessie, rest in peace. She had brown eyes. All right.
Viewer response. That was my wife. Was the viewer response, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Now we're going to do an interview. Would you like to do an interview?
Yeah, who are we going to talk to? Rocket?
Rocket is our guest today, and he's going to talk about how he dislikes dogs so much.
But he won't don't look him in the eye.
Dogs and golfers. He dislikes both of them.
There you go.
No, our guest today, since I have not been around and have not seen you since I have been out of my bubble a lot lately, we're going to have me as your guest today. I'm going to answer your questions and talk about bubbles and talk about networking, and I'm going to talk about where you network and how you network and the kinds of places that I've been the last 2 weeks, which is why my green eyes look so tired. It's been a whirlwind of a time, and then we're going to talk about some of the other places that I'm going to be. One of them with you in the future coming up this fall, so that other people can come and network too.
Did you sleep last night?
Barely. When I get super tired, it takes me a couple of days to get a good night's sleep.
Because you said you were tired. When we talked yesterday, I'm still up. So I'm still on. So today's Tuesday when we're recording this. I'm still up because I was editing all night from 5:30 on Monday.
You didn't sleep?
No, who has time for sleep? I can go 3 days and then I got to get a nap.
I brought water. I'm going to drink some water.
Yeah, I have water too. So, tell them the two places you went, and then I want to. I have a question as soon as you tell them, and then we'll take it from there.
Last weekend, not this weekend or this last weekend, the weekend before, I was in Phoenix, Arizona, for the Phoenix Screenwriters Association big get together. And there were a lot of people there. There were not just people from Phoenix, but there were people from all over the Southwest and the West. And it was a good meeting. I did 2 workshops, one on adaptations, adapting your book into a screenplay. And then in the same class, I switched over in the second half, and I did adapting your screenplay into a novel. And we talked about the different ways that you can do that. And it was very well attended, and it was kind of fun. And I got a lot of great questions that I was surprised that there were as many questions about it as there were. And then for the second class I did there, I did a class about scenes, how scenes work, how they're linked to each other, how they affect other scenes further down, about setups and payoffs, and about how they're constructed.
And then the week before you went,
I was in Orlando at ICFF, which is the International Christian Film Festival, and I was there and I taught a master class where I taught a class about what to do after you finish your script. For the first 2 hours and the second 2 hours, I taught the same scene class because there were a bunch of people who wanted it, who said that's what they wanted to hear. And so we did that class, and I got a lot of extraordinarily good responses from people about it, because it's going to make them rethink everything as they construct their scripts.
The first time you were on the show, one of your topic that time was you finish your screenplay, now what? We'll put a link to that one down in the notes as well. And you told our viewers what all to do. The thing I want to ask you was, yesterday or maybe when you were coming home from Orlando, you said that I'm trying to, you can, if I'm putting it wrong, you can correct me. You said, I got better at pitching, or I got some practice at pitching. And I know a lot of, like, I've been in so many of your sessions. I know a lot of how you teach very well and how thorough you are. And it surprised me when you said that, because the way you said it was, I got better this weekend at pitching or something like that. And like, I don't know, I've never heard you talk about pitching. I just assumed you were always good at pitching.
Oh,
So
I've always been good at pitching. I've always been good at pitching. I think I mean, I got better. I got better because I decided that I was going to be very succinct with all of it. I was going
so that's what I wanted to ask. So how was that weekend? How is it different, where it was notable to you that you're like, hey, I I did this really well this time?
I think because of the reaction from people,
Ah.
people asked me to send them scripts. Some amazing people, and it wasn't that I went out in order to pitch them at the film festival. And this is something everybody should know about film festivals. They are a a a incredibly fertile place to network with people. There are agents, there are managers, there are production company bosses, there are studio bosses, there are you name it, and they're there, and they're all there to just relax and meet people and talk. But when you get a producer who comes up to you and says, "Hey, let's have breakfast tomorrow. I want to hear about what you're doing," then you have an opportunity to pitch. Now, part of the reason I get an opportunity to pitch where maybe a new writer might not get as much opportunity is because I have a 30-year track record of success. And that makes a huge difference. But still, I know a lot of young screenwriters who were there who had an opportunity to pitch, to get their maybe get some of their stuff read. I know one man who had his screenplay that he was very proud of, that actually did go to a pitch session, and someone did request his script, and it was you never seen a smile like that, because it's a great accomplishment to have somebody of consequence ask to see your script. It doesn't mean that they're going to buy it, or it doesn't mean they're going to option it, but it means at least they're going to pay attention to it and maybe read the whole thing.
So I'm not going to say who, and I'm not going to say at which of those last 2 weekends, but there was someone who was at your level, I'll say it that way, had posted and said, I made so many contacts. I did so well. I spoke to so many people, and I heard a few pitches, and I gave a few pitches, and some newbie in the comments below this person said, "Can I send you my script?" in the comments on the post. And that, so while you're talking about this, I want you to point out, not that I already haven't, don't do that. And don't do that in the elevator either. The point of your story, one of the points of your story, was they invited you to lunch, or they
Yeah.
invited you to breakfast.
Yes. Yes, and I was on a couple of panels with a couple of people who could read my scripts and could talk to me about writing something. And I was on, and I met a few million selling authors who I talked to, and we got along really well and talked about maybe sharing ideas in the future. But these were all due to the fact that I have, again, a track record of success that can be looked up. I think I've told you the story of at the Oklahoma Writer Con, the first time I met Stephen James, the thriller writer. Can I tell that story?
Yeah, I was at that one. I saw him.
Yeah. Well, Stephen James is a million selling thriller author. You've seen his books at airports and everywhere where it's the thrillers. He sells lots and lots of books. And I was in the dining area of the hotel, And everybody was shaking hands and meeting everybody that first night. And I wanted to introduce myself to Stephen James because my wife reads his books. And I said, hi. And he said, who are you? And I told him. And he said, why are you here? And I said, oh, I'm a screenwriter. And his eyes glazed over completely. And it was like, how can I get away from you fast? As fast as I possibly can. And I thought, okay, because what happens is in a lot of cases, there are a bunch of screenwriters who go up to people like Stephen or go up to producers and stuff and say, hi, I'm a screenwriter and I have this screenplay that you should do and all this stuff. And they want to give them the screenplay and they know that these people have never done anything. So he made his quick escape. And I told my wife, listen, I get it. It's happened to me before. It's fine. And then the next morning, my wife and I were sitting at a table for four, just the two of us. And lo and behold, Stephen James walks into the restaurant, walks up to our table, pulls out one of the chairs, and sits down. And he says, hey, I looked you up last night.
I was going to say, I was going to interrupt and say, I bet he looked you up overnight.
Yeah. I said, I looked you up last night. And okay. Now, how about let's go have lunch, you and me and Robert Dugani. And I went, okay. So it's I get it. Okay. I completely get it. It's what happens. Screenwriting is a weird writing discipline. And it's different than novels. And novelists who say I'm a novelist, people don't go, try and make an escape. But sometimes the screenwriters, they do. And I get it. But there are a lot of really good screenwriters out there who have some really good scripts who, it takes a while to get them seen. But once they get them seen, they can make a name for themselves. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
He is also very welcoming in that, like, so I was in the elevator with him twice, and both times he was fully engaged in conversations with, two of the other 7 people in the elevator. And so he's in a very engaging, he has a very engaging countenance to him.
You talking about me or Stephen James?
Well, both of you, but I was talking about him at the time.
Yeah,
and
he is. He's just an extremely great guy. He's a really nice guy. He was in town. He lives in Eastern Tennessee, and I live in Nashville. And so he was in Nashville, and he called me and he said, "Let's get some lunch." And it was a last minute thing, and I said, "Well, you know what? We had already gotten stuff to have sandwiches and stuff for lunch." I said, where are you? And he wasn't far. I said, just come over to the house and have lunch. So he did. And we had a really great conversation. It was great to see him again. And I'm going to, when we talk about what I'm going to do in the future, there's something I'm doing with him. So.
Awesome.
You got any other questions you want to ask me about these things?
Nope, that's it. No, I'm kidding.
Well, goodbye, everybody.
When you're on a panel,
okay,
and you wound up,
I was on a couple, but the one that I really, really liked was one I was on with Claire Lee, and Claire is a sitcom writer in LA who's been in a bunch of writers' rooms, and she's very quick, very funny, and a delightful person. And the other person on the panel, Cheryl McKay, whose name you've seen because she's a showrunner and has a new series out called These Stones that's won a bunch of awards. And she's just a terrific writer and a terrific person. And we did a really fun panel, the three of us, where we kind of just all played off of each other and found out how many people we knew in common, and answered a lot of really great questions from a very packed room at the film festival. It was like standing room only. And what was fun about it was most all the people who asked questions asked questions that the answers could benefit everybody. There weren't a whole lot of me, I things, but there were a lot of, general questions that the answers to those questions would benefit everybody. And that's what you always want when you do one of these panels. I mean, I've sat on panels with you before, and we really enjoy getting questions that the answers will benefit everybody in the room.
That's actually why I paused, because I was trying to ask the question without like making it about me. But I was gonna say, when I've been on a panel with you, uh, how do you, and you kind of answered it in there, how do you make sure, because you're very good, we've done roundtables together too, you're very good at making sure everyone's included, and so that's
Well,
where I was going to go with my question. How do you make sure that it's not one person dominating, there's three people on a panel, or like how, and it's not even just like, some, I've seen panels, we've all seen panels where just like a moderator will ask a question and go down the line, one person answers and one person answers. And it's not that, it's an actual conversation. How do you guarantee that conversation flows so well?
it's a matter of how your personalities mesh and how your experience meshes and how much it just works. This was the best panel I've ever been on. I'm sorry, John, I've been on some good ones with you, but this was the best panel I've ever been on. It just worked. People came up afterwards and said, wow, it was like just listening to a conversation between you guys, and then you answered some questions. But you make sure, you can't make sure that nobody dominates if you get somebody on there that wants to dominate. But if you get people on there who understand it's a panel where everybody should get their say, then you defer questions to somebody else. If a question comes to me and they send it to me, I can sometimes, and I did during this panel, I think that Claire's a better person to answer this for you right now. I'm happy to defer. I don't have to be the center of the all the attention, because I think that is not a good thing to do to other people on a panel.
And
And
sometimes it surprises you too, that so I would say one of my tips is, don't have any preconceived notions about the other panelists, because sometimes you think this person is going to be the dominant person, and they're not. They're gracious and cordial, or you think the opposite. You're like, I went to this other person's session and you think they're going to be the quietest, and sometimes they're the most engaging person, and it just, you can't have any preconceived notions about anyone.
well, you can never have preconceived notions about people you don't know well. I mean,
Right.
that's always that always makes for problems. You have to just go in there and think the best about people. Think that they're not going to dominate. I've been on panels where one person has decided they're going to dominate everything, and you know what? Sometimes I just let them, because it's easier than trying to look at them and say, "Hey, could you let somebody else talk?" Because that gets ugly and it's not worth it.
And sometimes an attendee in the audience will try to give you their soliloquy, and they'll try to dominate the session.
Yes, but I'm really, really good at stopping that. You've seen me do it.
No comment. Um,
You've seen me do it. You've seen me do it.
so you said earlier that on sometimes those panels turn into pitching opportunities, and
Well,
uh, how does that happen?
well, they actually, at this film festival, and that's why I'm saying to people, go to film festivals. They actually had a pitch room at this film festival where they had producers and production company people, and you had 3 minutes to pitch your film. And it was stopwatch 3 minutes. So you couldn't walk in there and go, hi, how are you? Is everything going well for you? Thank you for letting me come. And then you find out you've already used up a minute of your pitch to say hi. That's how it works. So I helped get some people ready to go into pitch by talking to them how they walk in, they go, thank you for having me, here's my pitch. And you go into your 2 minutes worth of pitch and leave a minute at the end so they can ask you questions. Because when that 3 minutes are up, you're gone, you're out.
And point out that we're not talking about a pitch fest. We're talking about a festival with a pitch room, and those are two different
We're
things.
talking about no, this isn't a pitch fest where these people paid to pitch.
Correct.
We're talking about an opportunity to sign up when they got there, to go in for, it was, I think, a 4-hour window where they let a certain amount of people come in and pitch for 3 minutes. And most of these producers all went, very nice, thank you very much, or told people where they were, gave them a little feedback on their stories or whatever. And then once in a while, very rarely once in a while, one of the producers said, I'm going to give you my card here. I want you to send me the script. And that's a win, a real win for a writer. You can't option a script or sell a script or have a little success or have people notice your writing unless you can get them to read it.
They got a request. Tell them what your week after the festival looks like. When do you fulfill a request?
A couple of days. The fact is if somebody requests one of my scripts, I'm going to go over it with a fine-tooth comb. One of the ones I sent one today. Okay? And the one I sent today, I spent a lot of yesterday and a portion of this morning going over again to make sure all the T's were crossed and all the I's were dotted and all the tech was up to date and all the cultural references were up to date, and that it read, even if it might have been a 10-year-old script, it might have read like it was brand new. And that was the whole idea. Plus, it was a pilot that I sent this morning. So I had to go over the Bible and make sure that was up to date, and it was really out of date. I mean, if I had just come home and said, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, and just said everything, then it would have been a mistake. So I went through and redid everything and made sure that it was in its tip-top shape to go out to these people who are tip-top people who can actually get something made.
You sent exactly what they asked for.
No more, no less. You don't send music cues. You don't send, if you've got a science fiction thing, you don't send a map of the world that you're talking, or the glossary of what everything means, or any of those things. No, nobody wants to read that stuff.
Listen to the CD while you read my script.
Well, there have been people who have sent, listen to this CD, and it's different music. All right, when you're reading page 13, put on cut 1. When you're reading page 32, put on cut 2. And no, don't do that. It's incredibly amateurish.
Even if they say, I want the script, don't send the Bible. I know people who have sent the Bible anyway. Don't, if they specifically told you not to, not you personally. I'm saying I know people that have done that. Just send what they ask for.
Yes. Whatever they ask for, send that, and don't send anything else.
You got to be, I'm skipping all around. You got to be at one of those. You got some time with one of my heroes, Christopher Lockhart. You're one of my heroes too, and we read his, I don't even know what you want to call it, his treatise, his article in film school. We read it, called I've written a dozen I don't remember the exact title, but it was, I've written a dozen screenplays, but I can't write a log line. And that's how I learned how to write a log line, was from Christopher Lockhart.
And you should, because he's probably the foremost expert in how to write log lines. He really is. I found him charming and fun, and we sat up on the rooftop of the hotel at the rooftop bar area, and we got to know each other. We had been Facebook acquaintances, and every once in a while, when he did one of his panel things that he does on Facebook, he would contact me, or Ramesh would contact me and say, would you like to be on this panel? And I would do it. But Christopher and I had never really connected. And we connected. It was fun. And we connected on a couple of levels. He loves musical comedy. He loves the musicals and shows and stuff like that. And he was surprised when he found out that in my youth, many, many decades ago, that's what I did. I did Broadway musical stuff, and was a song and dance person, although you couldn't tell now. But that's what I did as a young man. And We discovered things we had in common that were outside of the industry, and I discovered he was a delightful human being.
All right. I'll get back to him in a second, but are you teasing us with a soon coming Broadway musical of this? Jessica's
No, I'm
Vampire
not teasing you with a soon coming Broadway musical with that, but I wouldn't mind.
Diary?
Uh, uh, but no, but you're giving me another idea.
Yeah.
I don't write music, but there are a few things going on with that book. We can talk about that later.
So when you, and without violating any trade secrets, when you and Christopher Lockhart are one-on-one and having not the first conversation, the final conversation of the weekend, what does that look like?
It was
And
it was great to finally spend some time with you. It was great to finally meet you as a person and talk to you as a human being rather than a screenwriter or a guy who works at William Morris or a logline expert. And we got to that networking is all about building relationships with people that are real. That you meet people at places like these places that, and you find out I really like you, and I really want to. We really get along. Listen, that's how we met, and I consider you one of my closest friends now.
I'm in the top 20, you told me.
You are. But you may be even higher than that.
Oh,
But I it's a place where you can. I met one of your great and glorious guests, Renee Gutteridge.
well, I was getting ready to say, when you were talking about panels, that's one common bond between everyone on a panel. Everyone has met Renee.
Oh, you should have seen some of the people that were astounded that I knew Renee. They said, "Oh yeah, my friend Renee." I said, "Yeah, Renee is a very very close friend of mine." And they went, "Wait, what?" Um, the showrunner Cheryl McKay was saying something about Renee, and I said, "Oh yeah, let's call her." And she went, "What are you talking about?" I said, she is one of my closest and dearest friends, and I said she and my wife are really close, and it astonishes people at times because it's such a small world, the world of writing and for film and even people who write novels that actually sell. It's a pretty small world.
She's so I was on a panel, you weren't there. She's a good example of what you do, but in a different way, in that she was in the middle and I was on one side and some other guy was on the other side. It turned into a conversation. It wasn't just question and go down the line and answer. And I feel like that had it been a different person in the middle, that wouldn't have happened. And I think she was the one that orchestrated that to where it turned into a true conversation, and the audience loved it.
She is, yes, she is one of my favorite people on earth. But here's the deal: I met her at a writers' conference in LA. We were both at a writers' conference. We were both speaking at the writers' conference in LA. And we sat down together one time, I think, and had lunch together. And we've been fast friends ever since. And this is a kind of this is what this is. And Steve James, I met at the same Oklahoma festival. And there are people that I've met at different places that I've ended up becoming friends with, because it isn't always that you get to work with them, and you may someday work with them, but you may not work with them right away, and you may not ever work with them, but you get to build relationships with people that you may not have known otherwise, and it's never not a good thing.
Yeah, I've written an article for WriterCon magazine last year. I'm trying to remember how long ago it was, 6 months ago or whatever. And that my main thing in the article was I don't even like it's called networking, but I don't even like to call it networking, because it's just making relationships, and it's communicating and having relationships. Introverts can do it because they can listen, and every circle
Right?
outside a session of 8 people needs some listeners in it.
You have to pay attention. It can't. the part of the reason that part of networking is finding out, asking that person about themselves and not going on and on about you. Okay, that's not a conversation. That's a look at me, look at me, look at me.
That I've been in webinars with. That's another thing. Getting back to Christopher Lockhart, I've been in webinars with him and Ramesh, and they both listen very well. Like, and they'll even bring up something that someone said 6 questions ago, right? And so it's very evident that they are good listeners, and you're a good listener, and I'm a good listener.
This is a great listener. I mean,
Yeah.
it was really fun, and Lee Jessup was there, and she was terrific too. A complete and total class act, all the way around. Really liked her, and she gave a keynote speech that every aspiring screenwriter should listen to. She really was honest, direct, and very entertaining.
Totally different, but in terms of helpful, that's how Gene is. And like they're equally helpful.
Gene Bowerman?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about her later.
When I was a baby screenwriter, those were 2 of the most helpful people. And Betty Sullivan, who you also know, those 3 people were very helpful to me before I even knew you.
Betty, and then again, Small World. She was she was a writer on a script that I got a job rewriting. Oh, I got to tell you, there was one young lady. They had student film at Orlando. They had a category of student filmmaker for shorts, and that was really fun to watch. It was just a great joy to see the enthusiasm of these young people. And then when the girl who won the award, and it was that, see that thing back there?
Yeah.
That's the award. That's an award from that film festival. I have 2 of them. Thank you. But that there's a big stack of letters in front.
Tell them what it's from.
That one, believe it or not, is kind of a lifetime achievement award.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not dead yet, so I don't know why they gave it to me. And the other one is for Farmer and the Bell, the script for Farmer.
Oh, of course.
That's a nice award. The good thing about it is it's a really solid, nice award. The bad thing about it is it weighs about 20 pounds. And you had to put it in your luggage to take it home. And a lot of people won them. But she won her award and she was lugging it around. But her acceptance speech was one of the most heartfelt, gracious, and lovely acceptance speeches I have ever heard from anybody. And it was like a 17-year-old girl. And she was, it was astounding and wonderful. And when I caught her out in the courtyard at the hotel a little while later, I gave her my card and I said, I hadn't seen her movie. And I said, would you send me a link so I can watch your movie, please? Because you were so gracious and wonderful in your acceptance, and you were very you were great about talking about all the people that helped you and all the people that worked on the film and all the people that made it possible, that I would really like to see it. And she was very, I think she was a little taken aback for a little bit until somebody walked up to her and said, you want this guy to do this? And then she came up to me later and said, thank you. I didn't realize who you were.
After she looked you up.
Yeah, she looked me up. And said, yes, I would love to send it to you. So I'm looking forward in the next few days. I'm sure she's still floating around.
That's so cool.
You have to encourage people. This industry is not a zero-sum game. Just because one person succeeds doesn't mean somebody else fails. It doesn't work like that. That's not the way it works. Wait a second. Now we get to hand out and look at this one too. Except
this one right here.
Yes. That was very strategically placed by you, by the way. I appreciate it. That everybody can succeed. You can succeed on your own merits, and you can succeed by your hard work, and you can succeed by writing good scripts and making good films. And she was ready to do both, and I appreciated it.
And so I'm glad
Oh, I have a great story to tell you about that too.
okay, hold on to your story because I'm glad that
Okay.
came up, and it underscores an important point. Is people always want a shortcut and a quick fix, and that networking of helping the new people like you did at that film festival, or just connecting with the new people. That doesn't happen if you're never a PA on set, if you're never the lowest guy in the writer's room. There, you have to pay your dues. You have to start in the mail room, no matter where you go, and you just don't get to
Right.
jump to the top. And
No,
the
you don't need. You can't stop. You can't start on the highest rung of the ladder.
and people need to hear that. So part of that working your way up is you're a barista at Starbucks, but you're also a PA on set all day, and then the middle people get to know you. They might get to know you more from being the barista at Starbucks in the neighborhood than they do when you're standing at the end of a closed off street with a walkie talkie. And it's just,
I,
you have to
well,
start at the bottom.
you know how I got started, right? I got started as an extra in movies. That's what
Yeah.
when I decided I was going to do this, I went out and I got work as an extra in every movie I could possibly get in. There's some $100 million movies where you can clearly see my elbow. And what I did was stand around on set and just absorb as much information and education as I possibly could. And then I worked on the TV series for 6 years. And I went up to Don Johnson and I said, look, who was the executive producer of the series. And I said, look, I want to learn about what everybody does and how they do it. I want to be on when I'm here. And I was there for 6 years, 6 seasons. I said, I want to be able to walk around and look at how everybody does what they do. And he said, hey, works for me because that's what I did. And I ended up really being able to go to film school and learn as much as I could about it. Yeah, being on set is incredibly important. I think every writer should take acting classes just so they can learn about dialogue. That they can they can read their dialogue and realize how bad it is, and looking at it through the lens of an actor.
We had to, in film school, to take we got to take no we were required to take one acting class, and which then morphs into two, and it totally changed me as a writer. And so in the class of say 24 people, there were 6 screenwriters, and then the rest are all theater people. And you're like, they're just like blowing your socks off in a scene, but
It's
you were
it's not
better at the
about
end of
that.
the 15 weeks. You were better at it.
Yes, but you were also not only better at it, you had a better understanding of what actors go through when they look at your scripts.
Exactly.
Big
Yep.
deal.
All
So
right, I interrupted your story.
I was going to tell you a story. So there's a writer that I know real well. I've known for years, and she's been trying to break in, and she gets some rewrite jobs every once in a while on some independent films, and I'm proud of her. But she's never really broken out. And I was in where was I? I was in Phoenix, and I ran into her, and she said, "Are you going to the ICFF Film Festival?" I said, "Yeah, of course. You know I go every year." And she goes, "Well, I'm up for best screenplay in the awards." And I said, "Good for you." She goes, I said, I'll probably give it out because whenever I'm there, that's one of the awards that I give out. She smiled and laughed and said, "Okay, then this is what I want you to do. When you open the thing, it doesn't matter what it says, just read my name." And she was kidding, of course, and we laughed and we joked about it. So I'm up on stage and they do all the nominees, and I'm up and I'm talking to the audience and I'm doing what I do, which is telling like 8 quick little jokes before I open the envelope because that's me and I'm having fun. And I'm bringing a little levity to something where people walked out there nervous, who gave out awards, who were nervous and scared. didn't want to say anything, but here are the nominees, and this is the winner. And so I opened the thing up, and I wasn't thinking about her because it was up, because I wasn't going to do that. I opened the thing up. It's her name. She won. And I went, oh, wow. Just like that. And the audience laughed because they didn't know what I saw. And then I said, let me tell you a story about Phoenix and this girl. So I told them the whole story. And then I said, so I'm going to announce her name now because she actually won. And everybody went nuts and crazy. And it was really fun.
And
then
you had to tell the story, or she might have thought you were doing the thing. The joke.
Now she's desperately trying to find a video of it. But it was cute and funny, and it made for a really nice award giving. And I accepted the award on her behalf, and I told her that she was going to have to arm wrestle me for it.
So if you're watching this at home and you have the video, send it to Bob, and he'll get it to her.
A good time was had by all.
Awesome. So that's where you've been. Now I want you to talk about where you're going, and then I didn't warn you. You have to give a call to action at the end. You get to give a call to action at the end where you challenge our viewers to get out of their bubble and do something. So that's how you'll wind it up. So tell us where you're going.
Okay, here's where I'm going. In October,
yes,
I'm going with Jon Meyers. This Jon Meyers. And I are going to someplace called WriterCon 25.
Well, so that's Labor Day. That's Labor Day, not October.
I'm sorry, in September.
Yeah,
we're going there.
Yes,
I'm going with Jon Meyers to WriterCon 25 in the 1st of September, and we're going to be there. And I'm going to speak, and John's going to speak, and we'll probably end up paneling together because we always do. And we're going to end up at roundtables together because we always do, and it's always fun because I love seeing them and love having them be around. So it's a great time is had by all, and it's called WriterCon 25, and it's not just for screenwriters; it's for novelists.
Not counting panels, I'll be doing 2 or 3 sessions, and then a master class. Bob will be doing a master class.
Yes. I'm doing a master class with the lovely Renee, who we talked about before.
Wow, I've heard of her.
Yes, she and I are going to be doing a master class on story and story logic, which should be very interesting.
Make sure you don't schedule it up against mine.
I don't make the schedules, young man. I have no choice. And then I'll be teaching a couple of other classes at WriterCon, and being on a bunch of panels and doing some roundtables and meeting people one-on-one. And John says there isn't a time when he walks through that hotel that I'm not sitting and talking to someone.
Correct. You never see Bob alone, whether it's in a restaurant or in a hallway or in an elevator. You never see him alone.
I have a tendency, and I did it at the film festival. I have a tendency at some of these places to have like people come up and want to talk. So it's always nice, and it's always a great pleasure to have people like what I do enough to want to talk to me about it. So
there's also a learning opportunity there too. Is you carve out time for that. Like Emily and I, between the two of us, we had 8 sessions in 3 days. And so when you see me, I'm always off going to another session, going to the book signing.
Every time I saw you were running.
But I loved it. And
I said, John, let's go have lunch. I can't. I have to go.
Yeah, but I loved it being that busy. Here, this is something that you've taught me in that. So my master class is going to be a memoir, and it's memoir isn't telling your life story, it's telling the stories from your life. And you taught me that you have to live a life so you have things to write about, right? You have to enjoy your life.
That may be my call to action.
Okay. But so that informs how I'm going to end up writing my memoir, and that informs what I'm going to be teaching people in that masterclass. And then that one little life lesson
So
informs it.
that's September.
Correct.
In October, I'm going to be in Orlando again at the ICVM National Storytellers Conference. And I will be teaching a master class there with Renee. I will be on some panels. I'm going to do a panel on pitching. I just found out because Cheryl McKay, before we left Orlando, came up to me and said, I already talked to the people at the Storytellers Conference and told them you were going to do a panel with me.
And I believe that's the first weekend in October, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
and I'm going to do that. And so that's I'll be there for 3 or 4 days doing multiple classes, multiple panels, and speaking and talking to as many people as I can who want to talk to me about writing. Then in November, the first weekend in November, I think, the 6th or the 7th, or 6th and 7th, I will be with Robert Dugani, the new John Grisham, whose latest book pre-sold 3 million copies. I wish that could happen for me, because I wish it could happen for every writer. But that's pretty amazing. He's an incredible writer. My wife is a huge fan, and so she's happy about that. And then Robert Dugani and Stephen James, who we talked about a little earlier, who is an amazing teacher of writing and an amazing writer himself and a million-selling, best-selling author. And me, because they asked me to, are going to do a story symposium in Nashville that's only going to be open to maybe 30 people. And you can look, I don't think it's on the internet yet, but when it is, I will give the information to John so he can talk to people about it or post it wherever he posts.
You're not going anywhere for 6 weeks, so you'll be around.
No, I told you I would do this, and I know you were absolutely stunned that I
so
actually showed up.
You'll
and
be
was
around
able
for
to-
6 weeks, so maybe you'll have a date by the end of those 6
Yeah.
weeks in a place. Before you go on, in October, I will be at Southern Festival of Books. I don't think I've announced that anywhere yet. And I don't know the capacity yet, but I will be there with my second book. And that's the third weekend in October. And then the weekend before Thanksgiving, so it's the 21st, I think, 22nd. I'm speaking on that Saturday. I'm speaking at Writer Fest in Nashville at Belmont University on why, no matter what you're facing, kind of like our first book, no matter what you're facing, why you need to write anyway. Many festivals require that you have a new book out to speak there. And so I want to encourage our listeners. We have, yes, I'm talking to you, listeners. We have people who wrote a book 10 years ago and haven't written one since. You have to stay in you have to stay in the game. It would be
You
like,
have to stay current.
yeah, and it could be a great book, and it could have sold 10 times what our book, mine and Emily's book, sold, but they want fresh, and then you can bring your back catalog.
Well, I have a contract to write another novel, but I haven't finished
Yay.
it yet. So I have to do that. And I have another screenwriting book that I have come up with a really kind of cool hook for that I want to do. And John keeps telling me I need to write my memoirs. So
You're gonna, at the very least, a year from now, write a chapter for my book on.
I'm going to write a chapter for your book. But he said that if I write a memoir, he'll publish it. So that's his promise to me. I'm going to hold him to it right on this, right here,
Yep.
right now.
You got the stamp of approval from Emily too, and she's my boss. So
Would you like to hear my lineup of guests that I've put together for you?
sure.
Next week, the estimable and lovely Clay Baggett will be here. He's an ex-long hair metal rocker who has seen the light and has changed his life. But he's a great writer. He's a great person. He's a great media guy, and He is always interesting and always fun. And John has met him at my home a couple of times and said, "Will you get Clay on this show?"
Yeah, I've met him 3 times. He's amazing. I already tell you what the 3 of us are talking about. You're going to be talking about expectations.
Excellent. Then Nashville songwriter Justin Peters, who has written a bunch of hit songs for all kinds of different artists and has written songs that have gone in movies and TV, will be here to talk about writing songs and how he goes through and what he does and how it works. And we'll be talking about all the things that is Justin Peters. He is funny. He is entertaining.
And is this when you're announcing that he's writing the music for your musical?
No. And then Gene Bowerman will be on from what's the name of her company?
Pipeline Artist.
Pipeline Artist. She also is the writer of one of the great screenwriting blogs of all time.
Yeah, she's going to be great. Clay's going to be great.
She's fabulous. So she's going to be on. So that is what's coming up in the next few weeks, and I'm looking forward to it.
Give the people a call to action.
When I was about 13 years old, I wrote a bucket list of all the things that I wanted to do, that I wanted to accomplish in my life, not just professionally, but just to see and do, like whitewater rafting in the Colorado River, or climbing a mountain, or going to the moon. Now, I haven't done that one yet. Or being in a Broadway play, or seeing a Broadway play, or being on television, or whatever it was that I wanted to accomplish in my life, writing a novel, which I didn't do till last year. So all these things I put in my bucket list, and a lot of them I have accomplished, and they all inform my writing. They make me a better writer. You cannot write if you just sit in your mom's basement and type. It doesn't work. You have to live a life. Plus, we're here such a short time. Go out and live your life. But you could take all that stuff and it can inform everything you write. Everything. So I'm just say, put together a rudimentary bucket list, something you think you can accomplish and that you want to accomplish, and start checking them off.
If you could go, so you haven't been to the moon yet. Yet.
No.
But if you could go to the moon, but you had to go with Katy Perry, would you still go?
No.
I would go with if it was the same equation and it was Kelly Clarkson. Man, sign me up. she's my that's
Ooh.
my one guest that I want on this show.
Kelly
more than
Clarkson?
any. Yeah, I would love to have her on the show.
She lives in my neighborhood, right?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I would love to have her on this show. Invite her over for some holiday or something. And because she does, and Emily and I have talked about this, she does the same thing that we do. We leave, I mean, she doesn't leave all the mistakes in, but she leaves a bunch of mistakes in, or she knocks something over, she'll leave that in. And that's what we do because it's authentic. And I model much of my career after her. The non-singing career.
John, you're great. So anyway, that's my call to action.
Wonderful. People will know, and so I don't want to bump up against this because that's a great call to action. But my brother has a bucket list, but I don't believe in bucket lists but I still want them to do the call to action. But I just want to explain, because I've said it on the show before, that I want to explain. It's the same thing like how you don't outline, but then you make bullet points. I think you just make a list of the stuff you want to do and then just go do it. But I don't like the word bucket because it's before you kick the bucket.
A list that is of things you want to do, which is what a bucket list is.
I know, but it's before you kick the bucket. And I don't want people to think about kicking the bucket. That's all. I love my people. I love you. I don't want you to kick the bucket, Bob.
Well, I don't either right now. So
it's the list. Just go do your list, man. But you can call it whatever you want. It's your list.
Thanks.
And so anyway.
Oh, hey, Jon Meyers. You rang the bell. I was supposed to remind you if you forgot.
So the ringing of the bell reminds me to remind you, listeners and viewers, to do all those things that you're supposed to do. Leave a review, ring the bell, smash, put toast in the toaster, turn on the blender, all those things so that we can move up in the algorithms, and that the reviews help a ton. And then I wanted to point out something about this.
You didn't ask them to subscribe.
Subscribe, thank you,
Yes.
and hit the subscribe button. Join us on all the social medias. But joining a community is investing, kind of like what I was talking about when Bob gets to talk to this new filmmaker, right? And so a rising tide lifts all boats, and we have a writing community and a literary community, if you will. And when you're just with other like-minded people, it's investing in yourself. People will come on their YouTube show and go, I need more followers. No, you need to be in a community, and it's investing in yourself by joining a community. I don't want you to ring the bell so I have more followers. I want you to ring the bell so that you're engaged every week and you get reminders of helpful things like what Bob has taught you. What, 25 helpful things so far today, and we're not done yet. And
Are you keeping track? I have no idea. I don't keep
yeah,
track.
I don't. I made a list, but
I have a hard enough time keeping track of anything.
it's
You
a
know.
ton. It's a ton of things, and so that helps you to know those things, and that's why you want to like and subscribe. At least in our case, we want you to invest in yourself. Now, Bob would say, and Bob will say in future episodes, he will say, "Hey, Jon Meyers," and then he'll teach me something. But Emily's already done one, and so here it is.
Hey, Jon Meyers.
Huh? Where'd you come from?
Who knows?
Didn't you have that same shirt on like 3 months ago?
I can wear the same shirt.
I never do.
In a previous episode
Yes.
where I may have been wearing this shirt,
Yes.
you mentioned seeing Paddington in Peru.
Yes, I did.
Have you heard of the Nazca lines in Peru?
Hmm.
And if not, can you guess what they are?
Say it again.
The Nazca lines. Nazca.
I may have heard of them, but I know them by a different name. I believe that it's a kind of orange in an orange grove that comes. Am I anywhere close?
No.
All right. Well, that's why I came here to
Did you think
find
I said
out what
lines?
I thought you said lines like a telephone line.
Yeah, like a line. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to share my screen so
Okay.
that you can see the wonderful picture of a Nazca line.
Oh, push. Oh, that was a different show.
So here's another one. Here's another one.
Yeah.
And what we're looking at for people who are audio only are these just massive drawings on the ground. This first
Are
one
we?
looks kind of like a bug.
Yeah, it looks like a giant tarantula.
This one
Ah,
I'm not sure.
that's the guy from Veggie Tales. What's his name? The green guy.
Archibald?
The green stalk of celery, whatever his name is.
That's funny. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about these lines.
I think I fell down and hit my head, and we're on the Unfreaking Believable show.
There are so here's the thing, there's not really that much known about these lines, which is why it kind of is a mystery. So yeah, you could speculate a lot if you're on the Unfreaking Believable show. They are said to be from well, first of all, they extend over an area of nearly 190 square miles.
Oh my
And
goodness!
most of them were constructed more than 2,000 years ago.
Wow.
By the people of the Nazca culture, though some actually seem like they came earlier from the Paracas culture. Most of them are animals or plants. We don't really know exactly what they are for. They actually weren't even found until way later in the 1940s when Paul Kosok, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, was in an airplane. He was a historian. He was flying in an airplane and just happened to see them. And he assumed that they were drawn for astronomical purposes. So kind of like when we talk about the Stonehenge or things like that, like maybe it had something to do with astronomy. There are theories that came about in 1967 from an astrophysicist named Gerald Hawkins, who said there's really no correlation between these lines and celestial bodies. So later in 1997, there was a group that scientists who came together who were analyzing it, and they think that it actually had more to do with water related religious ceremonies, but even that seems unlikely because it's a desert. um, so really here's what I think. Here's my theory. I think it's a piece of art.
Oh.
And what I'm curious about is what art do you make or do we make today that people are going to say, oh, it was some kind of religious thing or some kind of science thing, but it's just a piece of art?
Hold on, I'll be right back. So to answer your question, what future generations will find as works of art, or no, that were works of art, but they'll interpret as religious symbolism, you can guess what it is. It's these guys.
The smushed clay
guys from a previous episode.
Yes, that's so funny. I said it was I said it was unlikely to be water related. It actually says it's likely to be water related because it's a desert region, so they would have been hoping for water. And there are a few other things like the presence of it says excavated platform of thorny oyster fragments. I don't so maybe that implies that there was water there. So it is maybe likely that it's water related, but again, still it could also be art.
So here's where I ask you a question and you say I didn't read up enough to know to be able to answer your question.
Oh no, and then we'll have to have another one of these.
Why do people think and jump to the conclusion, like you've debunked the celestial thing, right? That just because I finally saw this thing from an airplane in 1940, that it was even intended to be seen from the sky. How do you know, or how do we know that it's not, like the purpose was an earthly purpose is my contention, and so it could be the waterway thing or whatever, and or it could be art. But people always look at these things, no matter what they are, from above. No, look at it from surface level and study it from surface level. And what does it do? Does it point you in a certain direction? Like cairn, right. We don't look at cairns from the sky. Maybe it's a cairn, it's some version of a cairn to point you somewhere, but in a very artistic version.
It seems like that group from 1997 that I was talking about, that's kind of the correction that they made, because they looked more from the ground and saw that there were these platforms and things like that may have been suggesting a direction that you go. I don't think I mentioned this, but some thought it might be like paths that you're supposed to walk or something for like ceremonial purposes. But yeah, it is interesting. And I also think there's so many odd things that humans do that have it's hard, like that would be really hard to explain. Like think about things that we do now that would be really hard to explain to people 1,000 years from now. So that is one of the amazing things about historians, though, is that they can attempt to interpret these things, but there's just a lot of mystery to it.
To pull this back to writing,
yeah,
1,000 years from now, people will study our fonts and go, why are there 2,700 different kinds of R's? Or, or why do all the W's look so different? and when people did cave paintings and told stories through cave paintings, they looked different depending on their culture. These
Mhm.
could be this could be words or or meant to represent a word or a language, and that you only encounter that word or language from the surface of the earth, not from up above in the sky.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that back because this is such a permanent piece of art. And I think a lot of artists want their works to be permanent, and not everybody gets that. But these Nazca people, they created a work of art that withstood 2,000 years. It's just incredible.
This was a baby at one point. Now look what it's turned into. This piece of work of art will last forever.
Oh.
For it will last thousands of years. Yeah, and so it could be a work of art. So what I'm like, was there something that wasn't a bug or a plant? Like that's like if it is a directional arrow to point you to go to Mecca or to point you to go to Albuquerque, what why did it have to be an ant? Why wouldn't it just be a arrow or a sun or a star? Like why did they have to make it a animal or a plant? That's what doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
that is really interesting because it says that the Paracas culture, who were earlier, did had like human-like appearances, whereas the Nazca were specifically like it says plants and animals such as monkeys, killer whales, condors, hummingbirds, pelicans, spiders, flowers, trees, other plants, and as well as geometric shapes including triangles, trapezoids, and spirals.
Oh, well, what I started to say was, well, that makes sense because is that it would be nature because that's all they had. They didn't have cars. They didn't have. Uh, hey, I'm gonna make a picture of this, whatever, the Washington Monument. They didn't have the other things other than nature to make their
Yeah.
to depict art from.
And it's
Interesting.
pretty impressive that they were able to do that from ground level without seeing the whole picture.
Yeah, that's because you've seen the whole picture. But if your only knowledge of existence is from the surface of the earth, it wouldn't be as impressive to you. It'd be like
Maybe, but
40 paces this way, 400 paces that way, 20 paces this. That's what it would be.
yeah, yeah.
I like this topic. That was great.
Cool. Awesome. Well, now you
Do you
know.
have do you have anything to support your art theory?
No. I mean, the fact that they are portrayals,
Aesthetically
they're
pleasing?
aesthetically pleasing. They portray like are symbolic of like very specific species. Um,
Okay, here.
but what
Yes.
breaks down that theory is like what you said, only seeing it from ground level, you wouldn't be able to really see what it was.
Even if you were up in a tree, you couldn't see. You couldn't tell.
I don't know. It
So,
didn't look like there were any trees nearby.
well, here's how we can prove or disprove your theory. What years were these made? Do we know that?
It said 2,000 years ago in 200 BCE to 600 CE.
Okay. So there was other artwork in 200 BC.
Oh, for sure.
So is it aligned? Is it aligned with other artwork from 200 BC? Then you could say, yeah, this spider is also on this clay pot, and then you could say it's
So
definitely art.
yes. So
There, I
yes,
solved it.
one of the things I didn't read was that when the Pericas, I don't know if I'm saying that right again, their images they say are very close in resemblance to earlier petroglyphs in the region. So
Man,
so it seems like, they're doing this on different items, not just the ground.
yeah.
So
So then that supports
maybe
your
that
art
does
theory.
support my theory. Yeah.
There, I saved your theory.
There you go.
How about that, Bob? We're back. How about that? That was amazing, wasn't it?
I thought it was amazing, and I've never learned anything like it in my entire life.
I just love Emily when she teaches me something new like that.
I like Emily even when she doesn't teach you something new.
When she teaches you something new. And I've learned so much from her over the last year. Guess what it's time for now?
No, please, no.
It's time for the final act.
Do you understand that the last time I was on your show, I won some paper plate with a dinosaur on it? Okay? All right. Which I think ended up going in my fireplace. But I
You gave it to Emily.
did I? Oh, that's better.
So
Probably went in her
today
fireplace.
you will be playing for this used banana. How about that? Oh.
How was it used?
So when you said we hey now, it's not that kind of show. When you said this guest is gonna be next week and this guest is gonna be next week, we have no continuity on this show, right? So we just filmed an episode yesterday with Stephanie Jones where we talked about Dingus Day, which was 3 weeks ago. The week before we talked about Easter. It's not even going to show up until June sometime. So who knows when this happened. But yesterday when we were filming, this was Stephanie Jones' prize. And she won it, by the way, but she's not allowed to eat bananas. So now I got this leftover banana.
Did she give up bananas for Lent?
No, I didn't dive into it. Because I don't, but I'll ask her next time I talk to her. But my immediate thought was, great, now I can use this banana for Bob's prize.
Well, thank you. Now I'm getting a re-gift. That's great.
A reprise. So today you will be playing. Don't you want to know what game you'll be playing?
That doesn't matter.
It doesn't involve Baggy. Today you will be playing Tom, Tom, or Tom. Act excited.
Can you see the pain already generated in my face? Go ahead.
You know the internet trend of 100 men versus the gorilla. Are you aware of this internet trend?
No.
Okay. Do you have the internet in your? Oh, you must be because we're on here.
I have the interweb, yes, but I don't look at memes like that. Go ahead.
Remember 6 months ago, it was like, why do men always talk about the Roman Empire? Do you remember that one?
Yes. I remember.
Yeah. So it's like that. It's that big. If there was a battle of 100 men between 140 and 180 pounds, could they take down a single gorilla? So today, I will be giving you 3 toms. You get to pick one of the toms, and then you clone them, and so there will be 100 of that tom against a gorilla, and you have to explain to me in less than a minute why you chose that tom to beat the gorilla, and 100 of that tom to beat the gorilla. Yes, I'm dead serious. And you have to tell me why you chose that tom to beat the gorilla, but 100 of him. And then why you excluded the other 2. So, and then do it in that order. Say, I excluded this one because of this. I excluded this one because of this. All right. So, are you ready for your 3 toms?
Sure.
Tom Hanks is 1. Tom Cruise is the 2nd. See, this is hard. I already see the wheels turning. And would you like to get? Would you like to guess the 3rd Tom?
I don't know.
Guess.
I don't know. Just tell me.
Tom Selleck. All right.
Oh, I like Tom Selleck.
Okay, so
but he's too old. They would all die. The gorilla would kill them all.
Well, you have to pick one that has the best chances, and then explain to us why that one has the best chances, and then you can tell us at the end that now that you've said that he would lose. But pick one. Exclude the other 2.
All right, I'll pick Tom Cruise, even though I've worked with him on Interview with a Vampire, and he's not exactly the tallest guy in the room, but he never gives up on anything. He's a go-getter. He knows how to run fast. So, he's run really fast in every movie he's been in. So he could run away from the gorilla really fast.
There are 100 Tom Cruises, though.
They could all run away from the gorilla really fast.
Okay.
And then Tom Hanks wouldn't stand a chance. because he's probably older. He's close to my age. And Tom Selleck, I know, is in great shape for his age, but again, he's just a little too old to go up against a gorilla. So I'll go with the speedy Tom Cruise.
All right, and how will he? He doesn't get to run away. How will he conquer the gorilla?
Oh, he won't. He'll die.
The gorilla will win because even though he is speedy, he's not speedy enough to get away from the gorilla.
Well, he's speedy enough to get away from the gorilla. But if he has to attack him, no, gorillas are too strong for all those people. All it takes is one swat to kill you from a gorilla. I don't know anybody who thinks that 100 guys, maybe 100 MMA guys, but I doubt it. One swat and they're gone.
100 of me could beat a gorilla. Are you saying 100 of you couldn't beat a gorilla?
Yes, and then, I'm saying 100 of me couldn't beat a gorilla.
No, dude, you go for their eyes. You would climb up on his head and stick your thumbs in his eyes.
This is presupposing that you could climb up on their head.
100 of me could. One of me could get up there when there's 99.
But 98 of you would be dead. Yeah. So.
Actually, what I would do is I would lure the gorilla with this banana, and then while he wasn't, then why do you got to kill the gorilla? Why can't you just make friends?
Conversation? Is this real?
Why can't you just make friends with the gorilla? Why do you got to kill the gorilla?
Why not? Why not?
All right, good job.
Sit him down, play him a little Fleetwood Mac. Just get.
Do gorillas like Fleetwood Mac?
I've heard that.
That's the 26th thing I learned on this episode. Well, thank you for playing. I will deem that you have won this banana that you'll never get. So
that's okay. I'll tell my wife you awarded me a banana. She'll go, "What?" And then we'll move on to something else.
We'll give it to Emily. Thank you. And do you know how we end this? Do you know those catchphrase?
Probably I've heard it before since I've been on this show before. No, I've always been dismissed summarily.
Yeah, you're always dismissed. So at the end,
before it gets to this point,
at the end, at the same time, we try to race each other to who can say we couldn't have done it without you first. Ready?
We couldn't have done it without you.
We couldn't have done it without you. Good job.
I beat you.
You did.